I'm Mason Winfield, and welcome to this special encore presentation of the Phantom Tour, the 13 most haunted places in Western New York. We have something unique for you tonight, an exclusive preview of our next Phantom Tour production. We've taken events from some of the haunted places you're going to see tonight and produced 2 new films, guaranteed to get your heart beating just a bit faster. So sit back, turn down the lights, and enjoy the Phantom Tour, the 13 most haunted places in Western New York, and our exclusive preview of the Phantom Tour, 13 Tales of Terror.
Good evening and welcome to the Haunted Catacombs. I'm Jennifer Mucha, and we're going to take you on a tour of not just the scary thrills here at the Haunted Catacombs, but of the most haunted places in Western New York. Since the first scary story was told sitting around a campfire thousands of years ago, people have been spellbound by the tales of monsters, demons, witches, and especially ghosts. Now, the more that the storyteller could convince his audience that the story was real, the more the audience loved it. Through storybooks, novels, movies, and TV, we've all known about the monsters lurking in the dark forests of Europe, the vampires in the crumbling castles in Transylvania, and the mummies walking abroad in the sands of Egypt. But what you may not know is that there's another place where some scary and uncanny things have happened, and it's closer than you think. Tonight, we're going to take you on a trip to places of wandering spirits and unnatural occurrences. But there's no reason to pack a bag. You're already there. We invite you to join us as we reveal the 13 most haunted places in Western New York. Throughout history, across every culture around the world, people have told stories of spirits, ghosts, and other supernatural beings that move among us. Now, sometimes these stories are part of folklore or legend that are passed down from generation to generation. Sometimes these stories are part of a religious or spiritual belief system. Sometimes these stories are created as a form of entertainment to produce an emotional response of fear or wonder. But sometimes, these stories of ghosts and supernatural incidents are reported as real events, extraordinary experiences by ordinary people. And often, these experiences are shared by many people on many occasions over a long period of time. These are the types of haunted places we'll be visiting. And we have a great tour guide. He's a local writer and speaker, Mason Winfield, who's just published his 4th book on paranormal activity in our region. So here's Mason to explain how we selected and ranked our 13 locations.
I think Western New York is very haunted. One reason I think that is because there's simply so many people you talk to who have got ghost stories, and we don't have a publicity machine around here like in New Orleans or a Charleston or a Savannah. We don't have any big public impression of ghosts, and yet everybody's got some kind of a neighborhood story. As far as I'm concerned, the most haunted building in the world is the one you're in, if at that moment you're experiencing something you think may be psychic. Because there are some very, very famous buildings, and you could camp out there every night of every year and never see anything. That said, there are definitely places that collect ghost stories. But I don't think you should visit the sites on our tour and expect to see something psychic. I think some of these sites are private, and some of them are possibly even dangerous.
Our tour will cover a lot of territory, so let's get started. Instead of counting down to the most haunted site in Western New York, we're going to count up to the top spot, number 13, a location we consider to be the most haunted site in our region. Now, one final word before we get started. Some of the places we will be visiting are public sites that will welcome visitors who are curious about ghosts, spirits, and paranormal experiences. However, a few of these haunted locations are places you should definitely not visit, regardless of interest. We will remind you of this advice as we visit these sites. So now let's get the tour started. Here is the first of Western New York's most haunted locations.
When Beauty and the Beast was in Buffalo, they were having a rehearsal. Someone who was on the cleaning staff was up watching the rehearsal when somebody was suddenly behind him said, "Isn't it wonderful?" And he turned to see this distinguished gentleman with a gray flannel suit. He looks again and the man was gone.
Every theater has its hauntings, and Buffalo's Shays is one of what I call those Hollywood cases, where there's a recognizable ghost.
My name is Sarah Hood. I live in North Tonawanda, New York. I'm a volunteer in the restoration project at Shays, and I've been working there approximately 7 years. I had just recently started as a volunteer, and I had walked upstairs into the balcony area and went out into the theater, and it was dark in the theater. They were doing work. I think there were possibly lights on the stage. And I was standing there and kind of looking around the theater and all of the work that we had to do yet to bring this theater back to life. And all at once I sensed a presence to my right, and I turned and looked, and there stood this gentleman, very distinguished looking gentleman. He had a white mustache. And he said to me, "Isn't it magnificent?" And I turned back and I said, "Yes, it is. And when the volunteers are through, it's even going to be better than when it was first built." And when I turned back, he was gone. And that was just a matter of an instant. I went downstairs and I told Doris Collins, who is the head of the restoration at the theater, what had happened. And I said, "Nobody can move that quickly." And she asked me to describe the gentleman, which I did, as I just described it here. And she said, "Come with me a minute." And she took me up to the first floor and took me back into, it was like a secluded area, really, and showed me this portrait. And she said, "Is this the one you saw?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, yes." And then I got goosebumps, and I'm getting them now as I'm talking, because this was what I saw, and it was Michael Shea.
Some people, of course, who work at the Shays don't know anything about a ghost. They don't believe in them, they don't experience anything. But yet there is a big tradition of a haunting among other people you talk to at the Shays.
I think it's safe to assume that every theater has a ghost story. When we're saturated in an environment of beauty, the beauty works to open up our own faculties, and when they are open, we may be able to see into higher than normal things. So the beauty of Shays may in fact have some influence on people's openness to see what is above the normal perception, because their perceptions are being raised by the grandeur and the elegance and the beauty of it.
Now, as to explain why he appeared to me, I have no idea. I was lost in the moment. I don't think you go looking for spirits. I have never heard of spirits appearing before. This was a unique experience for me. I think that these are just things that happen in time when this spirit wishes to be disclosed. I think they will appear. And this is what I believe happened.
Welcome back to the Haunted Catacombs in Clarence, New York. Now, one of the folks responsible for making the scary creatures that inhabit this place is local master of monster makeup and special effects, David Gray. We thought it might be fun to see what it takes to undergo a monster makeover.
Hi guys, Dave Gray here. We're going to do Jennifer up as a zombie. Jennifer's so excited that we're going to really mess her up. We start with household items. We're going to use everything you can grab out of a kitchen. We've got Karo syrup, I've got flour, water, mixing bowls, Kleenex, and that's all we're going to use. Maybe a little airbrush afterwards, but you can use things like eyeshadow and powder brushes with that sort of thing. So what we do is we start with Caro syrup. She's going to have to shower for about 3 hours after this to get all this off of her. But we give her a good liberal coating of this. And then what we're going to do is cover her with Kleenex. And then we're going to do a coating of Caro syrup on top of the Kleenex. So, and then we'll accent with different types of makeup, things that you have around the house. How's it feel, Jen? You having fun?
It was good.
Yeah.
I think a little syrup went in my mouth.
Oh, that's good. All right. And we just take Kleenex. And we will make a fake skin out of that. And just tear around the ears, run it down the sides. This is the fun part. We just work it right into the Caro syrup. And then what we use to set the syrup so that you're not all sticky all night is flour.
Now, how long will this stay on your skin?
This you can leave on your skin for probably 5-6 hours. I mean, it's going to start deteriorating a bit as the party goes on or whatever you're doing. Just work the Kleenex on, you take pieces. Want it to adhere to the skin and be as close to the skin as possible, but still have a wrinkly texture. You're going to love what we do with your hair. You're going to love that.
Am I going to have to shave it off afterwards?
Probably. Yeah. Oh, I mixed the flour with quick dry cement. I'm sorry.
Now, are all these products safe for the skin?
Most of them are. It's Caro syrup, water, food dye, but you should always test products on your forearm just to see if you have any sort of skin reaction to them. Generally, these are natural products, sugars and that are very few people are allergic to.
Now, what will the final result be?
Well, you'll have a nice, wrinkly-looking skin that we will, you can either run a base makeup on, or you can do a, I don't know if you're so inclined to do airbrush, but you put either a liquid makeup or just a powdered makeup on it, eyeshadow, stuff you have around the house. That's what we're looking for.
This summer, a group of hikers was lost for almost 24 hours. When they were finally found, they reported following a group of other hikers deeper and deeper into the park, hoping to ask them directions. When they caught them, they could never quite catch them. And then, just as they were blitheringly lost, the people vanish.
Well, my name is Franklin Lavoie, and I'm a native of Buffalo, New York. And I've been coming to Zoar Valley for 30 years. Now, Zoar Valley is in the southern tier of western New York, and it's this remarkable landform. You're going over rolling plains and hills, the foothills of the Appalachians, the Boston Hills. But when you come to this valley, it has these deep-cut karst regions, steep meanders, which are, you know, real steep-walled trails between the high ground of the valley and the valley's floor where the Cattaraugus Creek winds.
Zoar Valley is a site that was considered haunted for a long time before the Europeans got here. It is a site of natural energy. There were ancient earthworks, burial mounds and the like, found in Zoar Valley by the earliest European visitors. Nobody knows exactly who put them there.
Closer to Gowanda, there was a large mound found, I think, in the 1840s or 50s. And they reported giant skeletons in these mounds. I think 13 9-foot skeletons.
To the Seneca, it was a region of long hauntings and curses. There are a lot of wizard and witch and sorcery tales set in Zor Valley.
Zor Valley is certainly one of the places that would be given that title of a haunted place because of the deaths that have taken place in that particular gorge. Both Native American and whites have lost their lives in some foul play and accidents and some strange happenings.
There are legacies of curses on some of the roads surrounding Zor Valley. Families that have many ghosts returning. There seems to be a whole pattern of hauntings on the streets and roads around Zor Valley, as well as almost all types of paranormal folklore reported in the valley itself.
I believe Zor Valley is haunted, and I believe that Zor Valley is a place where there is a bridge between the worlds, that supernatural beings are able to interact with us. And I believe the key to that is beauty. As in architecture, so in the valley. When the mind is opened by beauty, that opening allows the supernatural world to enter in, be it the soul of the world, be it the soul of something more earthy. The supernatural arrives in a state of beauty.
When you open the closet door, the closet light goes on. Now, I have had guests in a room say that the closet door be closed and the light will go on and off. Nobody's in the closet.
We have come to the mansion on Delaware, one of Buffalo's finest Second Empire mansard-style homes. It was built in 1869 and 70 by the grain elevator tycoon Charles Sternberg. He died before he could move in. It had a couple of owners after that, and it was turned into one of the finest inns in Buffalo.
I've had some experiences, you know, you're sitting at the butler desk and all of a sudden the elevator door opens and there's no one there, and where you're in the kitchen and all of a sudden a pile of dishes falls over where there's no one around it, you're the only one in the kitchen and it's sitting in the middle of a table and it falls on the ground, you know, things like that.
When I first started working, I was up here on the 4th floor where we are right now. I was in a room. When I came out of the room, everything on the cart was thrown on the floor. So I thought somebody was playing a joke. I went downstairs and asked them. By the time I came back up, everything was back on the cart.
They also have a well-known apparition here, a ghost. They refer to her very often as a little girl ghost.
We've had some people report seeing like a little girl in period clothing, feeling like there's children around.
I have heard a couple guests say that they have seen her walking in and out of rooms.
This image of a little girl is reported here actively. Someone saw her just last week on the 4th floor, where they seem to have most of their psychic phenomena.
When I was on the 4th floor, it happened on the 4th floor. I was in room 406. Not thinking nothing of it, I heard a little girl say, "Get out." So what I was thinking was probably a little girl checked into the hotel, because it sounded like a nice little sweet little girl voice. And when something caught my eye, something like a glow or something, like caught my eye, and when I looked, it was gone. So I thought it was some kids playing around, and I had asked one of the workers that I work with, did she see a little girl, because I knew it was a little girl's voice. So she said, "No, there wasn't no kids up here, and I've been up here with you." She said, "Wasn't no kids." I said, "Are you sure?" 406 is the one that has the most stories about the little girl. A person checked in a couple of months ago and had a dream about a little girl, never knew nothing about this history of this hotel, and she had a dream that it was a little girl sitting in that room on the bed, the same room she checked in, 406.
There are any number of people, little girls in the past of the building, that this image could be, but we just don't have any consensus on who it might be.
She seems friendly, like, you know, she don't She seemed like a normal, little kid that want to play and stuff, because she didn't try to scare me.
I think her spirit just she's alone, so she has nobody to play with. So she figures if I can play with them and play little jokes on them, but she doesn't want to hurt anybody. She just wants to be friendly, acknowledged, know that she's here to stay.
One of the most legendarily haunted areas in western New York is this woody stretch of territory between the Allegheny River and the side of a hill in Allegheny State Park. We're on a bridge overlooking the Southern Tier Expressway in one of the most storied pieces of territory in western New York. Up there's Guy Hill, home of the Witch Lights. But actually in that direction is Witch's Walk.
Witch's Walk was the site of an ancient battlefield. A real bloody battle took place there maybe 1,000 years ago. And that, I believe, is why that area is been attributed, the name is haunted, because of all the people who were killed there.
It was an area that was thought to be so haunted that the only people who walked there at night would have been witches and wizards, the only people who didn't dread its occult influences.
A phenomenon that I have grown up with. I have seen a number of lights out in the fields around my home and in the hills around my home. I've seen them along the river, in the river, across the river. And witch light is something that I just simply call them myself, and other people have called them spirit lights, and other people refer to them as simply the lights.
They're glowing, luminous spheres about the size of maybe a football or volleyball. And it's said to be the way witches travel sometimes when they feel like it at night. It's also said that sometimes if you're real close to these things, these witch lights, you may occasionally see a human face inside the light. This whole region of Allegheny State Park has been a source not only of folklore about ghosts and witches, but almost every other type of Seneca bogey. Everything from the supernatural zoo of the Iroquois is reported in this region. They've got the great snake, they've got their cannibalistic giant known as High Hat.
He is a creature that is man-like. He stands as a man, walks like a man. He looks very much like a man. Whenever he has been seen in the woods, he is wearing a high hat, a stove-type hat. People who have seen him up close and personal, say that he has a very gruff voice and he is supplied with an ample amount of sharp teeth. He is a meat eater. He travels wherever swamps have channels, wherever there's streams, there's creeks, the river bank itself. So that goes right through what was the old Witch's Walk, and High Hat certainly would be there.
Talking animals, sometimes animals like deer walking on their hind legs. A lot of cool stuff here. And the sound effects are said to be particularly vivid at night.
People have tried to camp overnight in that area, especially on Guy Hill, and they just cannot do it because of the real heavy evil feeling or heavy feeling of something's not right there.
I think it's time to check back with David Gray and see how my monster makeover is going.
And this is stuff that I want kids and adults to be able to do with a minimal of buying products out there. This is stuff you find right around the kitchen, like we said.
So you don't have to go out and buy an expensive Halloween costume.
Nah, I shouldn't have to. Okay, don't like that too much. You can tear stuff off. Step it back because cadavers really have no set look. They just kind of cadaverous. Right. Getting a little too into it there. Just run some base powder on her just to give her a little bit of a skin tone to it. Now we did a base coat of a flesh tone stuff. We're gonna do a little bit because we have some edges that are just not going out of sight here. So we'll just use a cream base just to bring those edges out.
So this cream that you're applying, is that something that you'd have to buy at the makeup stores?
Yeah, CoverGirl, Maybelline, there's a whole bunch of different ones. All right, now we do some highlighting. Start throwing in some shadowing. Just basically highlighting parts of her face that would go cadaverous if she kicked the bucket on us. And we just kind of highlight things. Accent lines, wrinkles. And then I always like to do temples. I do temples and cheeks.
Oh, is that a crayon?
This is, no, just a cream makeup.
Oh,
It's a
okay. I didn't see
cream
that.
Halloween makeup, yeah. Just kind of highlight the jawline a little bit. And it under the jaw, down the sides of the throat. Okay. And that's lovely.
I saw the shadow cross the barred window and our kitchen window one night while closing. I ran back in the kitchen thinking maybe somebody's back there trying to rip us off or do something that they shouldn't. They shouldn't be in the building. But as I ran back there, only to find that there was no one around.
The dock at the bay is one of Western New York's oldest buildings. Parts of this lakeside pub go back as early as 1804, which is pretty darn early for a Western New York building.
There's a few spirits that do haunt the dock at the bay. One of them we call the captain. We'll be at the bar closing up, doing our closing procedures, and we'll be hearing these boot heels hit what sounds like a wooden floor. And they'll pace from one side of the building to the other. Only to go upstairs and find out that there's no one up there. And I've done it a few times, just like I ran up there trying to figure out, well, maybe somebody's playing a practical joke on us and there's actually somebody hiding up there or whatnot, but to no avail, nobody there. And this has happened more than once. The best story is one of our DJs and our hostesses. During the closing of a banquet one evening, about 11:30, the banquet's shutting down, people are moving their gifts down the stairs. This man in a black cape, black outfit, as described by her, was hovering around the station and then kind of floated up the stairs, if you may, till the DJ came down, scared out of his mind, swears he'll never play another gig here again, that whatever went upstairs evaporated right in front of his face.
As for an explanation of why people who work there think it's so haunted, I would point out that the site of the dock at the bay has a very colorful wartime past. It was heavily involved in War of 1812 action. I mean, ships were docking outside it all the time. There was a little-known invasion of Canada launched by about 300 Irish drunks. And I guess their last party was at the pub, which was the dock of the bay, before they went across the river to attack Canada. And for a lot of these guys who got killed, their last memory of anything happy and friendly would have been today's dock at the bay.
Things will fly off the table, or an empty pitcher will fly across the dish room, or something will fall out of the ceiling. You might disregard it, you would say it's like a vibration or something, but we always say, you're making the captain mad, we better watch what we're doing here.
Draw a circle on the map a few miles around the point at which the Genesee hits the top of Letchworth State Park. Be sure to include the towns of Mount Morris, Cuylerville, and Leicester. In here you'll find a zone of memorable psychic activity.
Many residents of Mount Morris believe that it is a haunted area, and it has been for many centuries. There's been battles between the Senecas and the white people who lived there and moved in to take the land. There's also been the battle between the Hurons, Eries, Wenros, and the Senecas that go way back in time. Layers of civilizations have lived in that beautiful land that overlooks the beautiful valley. Squawky Hill is a very mysterious place. It's where many people believe the Meskwaki Nation lived, or the Kakwas, which were the neutral nation. The sad part of Squawky Hill is that it's also the town of Leicester's present gravel pit. And many people say the roads of Leicester are paved with the bones of our ancestors. The Torture Tree is a spot where the white people of the valley know it as a horrible massacre happened, and Lieutenant Boyd and Parker were killed. But long before that, the Seneca people lived there. It was called Shenandoahs, and it was a huge village of 128 houses. We met at the Torture Tree and did a ceremony to honor the people who had been desecrated once again when the salt mine collapsed in 1994. The first thing that happened was that whole village, Shenandoahs, Little Beard's town, was sucked into a huge sinkhole, which is now covered by a 12-acre lake. The new salt mine is located directly across the valley from the Mount Morris village. We were told that this wasn't a true burial ground, this 10,000-year-old burial ground, because there was no marker. But our ancestors used a huge marker. We used the valley of the Letchworth Gorge.
Those sites are known by all the museums and historians, but they're not acknowledged when it comes to accepting the fact that it's not proper to put factories or houses on burial sites. You don't cross these boundaries. You don't go into those places and think that this is superstition, because it's real.
The lawyer who was involved in the transaction to make the mine happen in the town of Groveland, where it's located, was hit in a hit-and-run accident in broad daylight by the 16-year-old son of the man who sold the final piece of mineral rights to get the mine going.
We try to caretake or prepare a place that we know will not be disturbed. And we make that promise. And that promise we tell them is, we will oversee, we will watch this place and make sure no one will disturb you. And when that gets violated, now it's a compound repercussion.
The town itself is sinking. It was built on a huge sand delta that was the mouth of a giant lake thousands and thousands of years ago. And as the mine collapses and sucks all the water into the mine, our histories, both white and red, it's also sucking the town of Mount Morris into it. It's sinking every year. And although there was hauntings from the past, I believe that the ancestors have been activated and are haunting the present as well.
We're halfway through our journey of the most haunted places in Western New York. The exclusive preview of the Phantom Tour, 13 Tales of Terror, is coming up. So warm up your popcorn and be ready for a few surprises that may yet be coming.
There's a certain part of the building, though, it's not in all of the building, a certain part of the building where you always feel like somebody's behind you, like walking right behind you. The barbacks, I used to have them in the long hallway in the basement, and I had to move them underneath the VIP room because they didn't want to go in the basement alone.
You know, you wouldn't know it from the outside, but there actually is a fairly classic old building in there. This is actually a building inside a building. And the one inside has been an array of theaters and supper clubs for the last 70 to 80 years. Probably the most classic aspect of this former speakeasy is the fact that it was Al Capone's hangout here in Buffalo.
When I first was doing construction here, I had a glass of wine on top of my desk, and I was going to the bathroom, and I turned around because I saw the glass caught my eyes and stopped vibrating, and the bottom of the glass, which is the stemware, snapped in half. Now, if a glass falls, the whole glass will fall down. The base was still on top of my desk, and the glass was down, and it was red wine all over my paperwork. I was not happy.
In the days when this was the Pfeiffer Theater, they used to have a motion detector type of an alarm system here, and it was very easy to know when the last person in is the only person in the building. And some of the most dramatic psychic effects were reported under those conditions.
The alarm has been going off by itself, and it's a brand new system. I think we had Forever Plaid here, and it went off about 3 times in a row during a performance, and out of the blue. I mean, it's a brand new system, and we couldn't even shut it off. It was like the weirdest thing ever.
I was told by an engineer 10 years ago that this part of downtown Buffalo has so many tunnels and underground passages in it that a shovelful in the wrong direction could have brought the whole block down. To whatever extent that's true, buildings that have tunnels under them tend to collect a lot of ghost stories.
The long hallway downstairs, you can feel the, as you walk, you see like all of a sudden your whole body energy changes. And then it stops like nothing has ever happened. Gives you the chill and your body starts tingling, that sort of feel.
My name is Susan Pikevich, and I'm the restaurant manager here at Spear Entertainment Complex. We were in a manager meeting and we're going through our agenda, which always takes a while, and I glanced into the liquor room, which is to the left of where I was sitting. It's about 3 stairs down, and saw a woman. She was probably early 20s, long blonde hair, wavy, beautiful satin cream-colored gown. To me, I guess I would describe it as a Victorian gown. Very satin, very lacy, and just standing there with ruby red lips, just staring right at me. It's very strange. I couldn't speak.
And all of a sudden, she was like white. Her face was just like, you know, when somebody's been spooked. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And she started freaking out with tears in her eyes. I'm like, I saw a lady in the liquor room. I'm like, what lady?
Every hair on my arm stood up. It was very, very strange. And I turned to our kitchen manager, and she immediately sensed that. She said to me, you would see something? And I said, yeah. It was very strange.
We had a gentleman that actually had approached us who travels extensively up and down Mount Hope Avenue over here. On several occasions during the night, he had to stop at one of the traffic lights that are right in front of the cemetery. And it actually became somewhat of a common occurrence where the apparition of an old man would start walking halfway across the road before suddenly vanishing in front of the cars.
It's not rare for a cemetery to get ghost stories, but a chunk of Rochester near the intersection of Mount Hope and Elmwood Avenues was known for being haunted a long time before it became a cemetery. Even for the first Euro-American settlers who came to Rochester, mystery lights were reported. Sometimes screams and groans were heard at night from this swampy area, and nobody knew exactly what it was. But the area was considered so haunted that even hard-working people with heavy loads, carts and oxen drawing heavy loads, would go out of their way to avoid this area to get home at night.
I believe the cemetery had originally gotten its start probably in the mid to late 17th century, or 17th going into the 18th century in this area. It does have a large history. I believe it is the second largest municipal cemetery in this country. It has a dead population of somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000.
This land has been traveled for many, many years, probably going on centuries that people are not aware of. This has been a trail through for many different people, many different peoples, I should actually say. Peoples that we probably don't even know ever existed. So you have this area that is an absolutely beautiful area that has been traveled time and time and time again for eons. So when you talk about apparitions and ghosts and spirits, and you ask, is there activity here? Yes, there is much activity here.
20 to 30 years ago, and it was a very popular topic then, was the fact that there had been several different satanic cults, allegedly, that were most prominent within this region, extending also out to areas of Geneseo, New York, and beyond. At that time, this area here, which is known as the Devil's Bowl here in Mount Hope Cemetery, had originally been reputed for being an area where people had conducted human sacrifices. Now, nothing was ever really established. Nothing had ever been caught. Nobody ever caught photographs off it. The news had never reported on it. It was mainly hearsay. What is true was the desecration of many graves. In fact, I believe back in the mid-90s, there was an individual who referred to himself as the Wizard, and this was written off in the local newspaper, where security had actually found him holed up in one of the many mausoleums here, sleeping with skulls.
Sometimes if you've ever had anybody all of a sudden look at you and say, "Did you see that?" A lot of times what will happen in a place like this is you'll be standing here not aware of much of anything except the beauty of this place. And you will see something out of the corner of your eye. You will feel something, possibly a light tap on your shoulder. And you will look, and nothing will be there to the naked eye. But to those of us that can feel and see and hear, we know what's beside us. There has been a woman and a child that have been up on that hill over there by that gnarled tree, and they've been watching us. They are fascinated. She told me, she didn't tell me her name, but she said that they passed around 1832.
People, when they come, the reaction is very positive, inspired or uplifted by just coming onto the grounds, feeling that inwardly their spirit is lifted, almost a sense of coming home, not even knowing why.
Lilydale is a lot of things to a lot of people, but Lilydale itself is the largest center in the world for the religion of spiritualism. It also is a community that has approximately 275 people who live here year-round.
We don't really think of it as a haunted place or a place of ghosts. We think of it as a place where spirit communicates, the higher vibrations, the guidance that comes from divinely guided beings who watch over us. So we think of Lilydale as a place where we communicate with spirits.
Spiritualism is one religion that believes that the spirits of our dead can be around us at all times, that they not only can talk to us, but that they are inclined to.
A spiritualist is one who believes in the continuity of life. We believe that you go on from your earthly body. The first time I ever came here, I came with a girlfriend. I didn't know anything about spiritualism, anything about Lilydale. You start with a prayer, and then your teachers, say to you, are you seeing anything? Are you hearing anything? And everybody around me was sensing or seeing something really wonderful. And I saw a duck in front of this one lady, and I thought, I'm not telling this. And the duck wouldn't leave. And my teacher at the time said to me, what are you getting? And I said, nothing. And she said, yes, you are. I said, no, I'm not. What are you getting? And I said, well, I have this duck, and he won't leave your side. The woman broke down and cried. That was her pet duck that she raised when she lived in Buffalo, and it got hit by a car.
I don't know if you call them ghost sightings or spirit apparitions is what I would call them. We've seen apparitions of spirit in this very hotel where we're talking now, in the Maplewood Hotel. There's a spirit guide called Azure, and Azure has been seen by several people walking the halls of the Maplewood and greeting people.
The spirit who is depicted in this painting, his name is Azure, who was a spirit guide, who was a spirit guide for the mediums who were responsible for this painting. They did not paint it with their own hands. How this painting came about was they sat and went into a deep trance. While they were in trance, there was a pot of paint, oftentimes just one color, black paint, which would then rise up in a mist, apply itself onto the canvas, and become the painting.
You can feel the energy, because here in Lilydale there is that energy, especially at our stump, at our Inspiration Stump.
Inspiration Stump is another example. That tree, which was what we consider once living, the energy that that thing held on to, that energy that it used, that it passes on to us, still resides. So to use that as an altar or as a place of extracting or connecting on a spiritual level, again, it's connected.
And it's always interesting for me to see that first time someone gets that first message that lets them know that there is more to life than just this physical body.
Getting a monster makeover isn't easy, but I'm sure the results will make it all worth the effort. Let's see how it's going.
Now, my favorite part, I'm going to run a little airbrush on her. Airbrushing is an interesting way to finish up because you get into shading and things you can do by hand, but it's I forgot to tell you about that. Okay, we'll apply a little airbrush on her and try not to hit her where it tickles the most. Close your eyes, don't squinch. Well, we just do a light dusting on you. All right, next part of it is that we're going to make our own blood. We're going to make it out of Caro syrup and red food dye. We put a little bit of Caro syrup in a bowl. Take quite a bit of red food dye. This may take a little bit of experimentation. Another item that you have to be careful you're not allergic to. It's made for food and probably not so much for skin. Put a liberal amount in there. Very staining, so be careful what skin you get it on. A little mix. And then you just test it to see how good it looks. Everywhere you got separations in the Kleenex. I like to throw some in there. Just makes it look like she's falling apart and bleeding. Yeah, just make it look like open wounds or the flesh is just kind of rotting. Sometimes I throw in a little blue into the Caros, into the blood mixture just to give it some dead look to it. How you feeling, Jen?
Feels really good.
Yeah, all right.
Very soothing.
This girl is definitely strange. Throw it until it drips nice and naturally.
Now, what are you applying it with?
I'm just using a makeup sponge here. Under the schnoz, down the lip. Yeah, you're looking pretty grody now, baby. Got hangy things here. I like that. Work with that. Anywhere you got some open tissue, makes it look.
I thought you were going to dump that on my head.
And now that you mention it, I don't think that would be a bad effect.
It is such a magnetic place, and it has so much of a power over not just me, but I've seen it with other people too, that you feel drawn to it. It attracts creativity, it attracts ghosts maybe.
Roycroft may not be the most haunted site on our list. It may not be the most haunted site in Western New York, but it may be the most interesting. Maybe the most interesting in the Northeast from all perspectives. It was founded in 1895 as a fine arts printing operation by a businessman and mystic known as Elbert Hubbard, a true Yankee original.
Elbert was not any one thing. You know, he wasn't an architect, he wasn't an engineer, he wasn't a furniture designer. He was a writer and he was a philosopher and understood a lot of different philosophies.
He was most likely an early psychical researcher, probably a theosophist, maybe a Freemason, almost certainly a Rosicrucian.
The Rosicrucians are an established, centuries-old school that emphasizes teachings of a cultural, education, and philosophical nature. Many of the persons you've probably heard through over history are traditional Rosicrucians, such as Plato, Pythagoras, Sir Francis Bacon, Sir Isaac Newton. It's a school that emphasizes freedom of thought and understanding of the physical, spiritual, emotional, and psychic well-being of the human being, and there's a systematic approach in its teachings that passed over time.
We know he was a member of the American Theosophical Society, the American Psychical Society. Almost any of those kinds of things interested him.
These are all groups of people who are interested in mystical philosophy. And one of the ways they express that frequently is through sacred architecture. And there are a great many signs at Roycroft that whoever put this place together was giving us a little coded message.
The sculpted figure that's on the chapel, a man or human-like figure with rays radiating out from it in red, suggests that as you come to this place, it is a special place of esoteric significance or of spiritual significance, and something to be aware to look for various signs throughout here. In terms of its interpretation, I would concur it's along the suggestion of a God creator figure or a God figure radiating life, wisdom, and well-being, or a figure of a master or a wise sage person. I think it's very much along those lines, and it's certainly a telltale sign this is a place of profound significance here.
The philosophy of the Roycroft is the most important part about it, not the style. In fact, as an interior designer, I like to tell people it's not a style. It is a way of life, a set of ideals. And Hubbard got them from the arts and crafts movement and other people, but that was what it was about. The books and the writing was what Roycroft was most about.
At Roycroft, they still do have an active cycle of haunted phenomena. Many people reporting funny sounds, moving objects, flickerings of the lights, but nobody's ever hurt by it, and nobody's ever scared.
Albert and his wife, second wife Alice, died on board the Lusitania May 7th in 1915. People reported back to Bert, Albert Hubbard II, that they had seen somebody who looked like Albert wandering the streets of Queenstown in Ireland. His body was never found. People say it's his spirit that is one of the ones that's at the Roycroft. It's very possible, but I mean, I know of at least 4 people who died within the building, so it's very possible that it could be their disembodied spirit as well.
It's more feelings that people get here. Waves of, oh gee, I feel so good and at home, and it's feelings that people have an overwhelming wave of some positive, good thing. I've never been bothered by it. I can walk through the Roycroft Inn or this building in the middle of the night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't fear a thing. In fact, I feel protected.
When I purchased the house, the first day we moved in, we were up on top of a mountain on a dead-end dirt road. A neighbor who owned a hunting cabin, former FBI agent, come driving up, never met the guy before, screaming and yelling, "What are you doing? You can't move in here. What are you doing moving into this house?"
You know, from my perspective, the very hardest cases for me to research are cases of suspected possession. Incidents where somebody thinks that someone in their family is occupied by another spirit. High up on a remote hill near Hinsdale, New York, there's an old house there, an old farmhouse, that became very famous in the mid-1970s as a source of haunting psychic phenomena of all types.
The gentleman that explained the history of the house when I was unloading was so frantic that I couldn't get it all. I thought it was a joke. And I basically asked him to leave, but he just said that there was an exorcism or a haunting there about 8 or 10 years before, and that there was a lot of separate instances that the whole town was afraid of this house, and it's famous, and you can't bring children there. I didn't see anything at first. My ex-wife did, and I didn't believe it. I thought it was all crazy. The strangest thing is I had 3 dogs. 2 were hunting dogs. They wouldn't come in the house. That's the first thing I did notice. In the other house we had, they lived in the house. I drive tractor trailer. At the time I was driving a straight truck, and I had my kids get up on the hill because I was afraid of their safety. When I'm backing up, I was going to park the truck. And I'm backing the truck up, and the dog all of a sudden, and this is a dog that protected the house. It was a husky shepherd, very protective female dog, come running, barking, like something was trying to drive the kids off the hill, and it ran right into the truck. And I tried to stop, and it basically got killed.
In the early 1970s, a family moved in, 2 parents, several children, a couple of animals, moved into this house, and almost from the beginning, they felt like they were the subjects of a haunting.
I think that there were some paranormal happenings taking place. That there certainly were some apparitions seen, and I think this was fairly well verified. There were what I would call poltergeist effects. I think it was probably a combination of a lot of psychic energy produced, by the members or some members of the family. I think there were certainly some psychic energies there, and possibly, and this I don't know, that there may have been some actual so-called ghosts or entities that were earthbound.
Make no mistake, this was a real haunting. It was not, however, a case of a person being occupied by a spirit, and the church declined to give the family an exorcism. The house became a mecca for not only legions, carloads of thrill-seeking high school kids, but also an awful lot of famous writers and investigators. The publicity and the natural tension of the case seemed to launch a tragic cycle for this family.
The family did move to the West Coast. The husband died, and one of the girls died.
As for an explanation of why the house in Hinsdale was so dangerous, so inspiring, so imposing, so threatening, I don't have anything to go on
I think some places are conducive to psychic phenomena. I really do. I think this was one of them.
Now we're going to get into the hair part of our program. It's getting scarier. I got some water and some liquid makeup here, all washable. And we just add a little bit of flour to the water. Mix it up real good, just by hand. All you have to do by hand, and then we start gluing it in. And this is going to be just so much fun for her later. It's a good effect in the fact that it takes care of the hair. It is natural stuff. It is available in most kitchens.
Actually, it smells kind of good. I feel like I'm a cookie or something with all the food products.
Give it a shake. Give it a shake. How's it feel? All right? Staying on all right? All right. We'll dust her up again. A little more flour. I'm just gonna bring it up and give it that matted, just fresh out of the grave look.
Now that's just flour you're adding on?
Just flour, yeah. Dried flour to give it a dusty look. And how are we looking here? We feeling pretty?
You are a sick man. Oh boy.
All right, you just take little pieces, and if we can get them apart and put them across the mush, and have them hanging there.
Oh, that's excellent.
Let's take
That's
this
absolutely excellent.
Let's take this off. We'll throw a little more blood on it. A little blood on the clothes.
I feel very chipper for just coming out of the grave. Watch out, boys. Oh, that was great.
That's all from Gray Effects. My pleasure, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Sorry to mess you up so bad.
No,
but
it's wonderful.
it's a lot
Great
of
job.
fun.
Great work.
Thank you very much.
Dale Van Alstyne. I'm the Director of Catering at the Holiday Inn Grand Island.
The Grand Island Holiday Inn is one of those places that seems to defy all the stereotypes of a haunted building. It's young, it's not built like a church, we don't know patterns of disaster on the site. In other words, none of the paranormal checklist, almost none of it fits the Grand Island Holiday Inn, except for the fact that it seems like they've got a great haunting going on up there.
Back in the early 1800s, this area was known as the Whitehaven Settlement. It was a logging community. At that time as well, there was a mansion on the property. The mansion was owned by the first supervisor of Grand Island, John Nice. There was a fire in this mansion, and a little girl, anywhere from 8 to 10 years old, was in there and perished in the fire. And at that point, the legend of Tanya seemed to have developed at that point. A guest was staying here, walking down the hallway, the main concourse hallway, as he was passing by the overhang which looks over at the pool area, which happened to be closed for renovation at this point. He had looked down and in the empty pool had seen a young girl about 8, 9 years old in a nightgown running around the inside of the pool. Well, he was, very disturbed by that and immediately came to the front desk. We went down to the pool, and all the pool doors were still chained due to the fact that it was under construction, and we certainly didn't want anybody to get in there. And when we did walk in, unchain the doors, we walked in, and we could see footprints in the bottom of the pool. We had one guest staying in the hotel who woke up very early in the morning, probably about 6, 7 in the morning, to find his young son, about 8, 9 years old, playing with a little girl at the foot of his bed. At which time he was a little bit concerned, where did this girl come from and such. So he flipped the light on and was approaching her. She went into the bathroom at that point of the room, and when he went into the bathroom, there was no little girl in there, and his door was still locked from the inside.
On April 8th, 1994, we had a 50th wedding anniversary for my parents. We were in the main dining room. It was a quiet evening over there for them. I think it was a weeknight. And the whole family was there. I've got 3 brothers and 2 sisters and their spouses and family. So what happens is we take pictures and the whole event goes on. I didn't see anything in the camera when I took the picture. Gave copies to my parents. I kept a copy. About 2 months later, my sister Marianne called me up and she said, "Did you see the ghost in the picture?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Well, the ghost of the Holiday Inn is in the picture over Mom and Dad." She told me which picture. I went and got the pictures out, found the pictures, looked them up, and then you could see the girl's face. My sister's neighbor, she lives out in North Boston, was one of the managers at the Grand Island Holiday Inn. She took the pictures over to him to take a look at it, and he freaked. He said, "This is the way this girl's been described." Everybody that's seen the picture that has been either at the Holiday Inn or worked at the Holiday Inn or whatever, who had any contact with Tanya, had said that that was the picture that they saw, and that was the face that they saw. Since then, a lot of people ask me, "Do you believe in ghosts?" And I said, "Well, I guess I believe in the possibilities of ghosts because it's unknown, so you can't say no." I've got a picture of one.
And now, the first exclusive preview of the Phantom Tour, 13 Tales of Terror, checking in, based on events at the Grand Island Holiday Inn.
Some people say you can't take pictures of ghosts or spirits. They say the pictures you take can't seek beyond their own dimension. I think they're wrong.
You said you took a photo of the ghost?
In this very building, I took the picture of a spirit they say haunts the rooms on the 3rd floor of this hotel. You know, others say that she doesn't mean any harm to anyone, but I think that's up to interpretation. You know, about 3 years ago, a couple spent the night here, claims to have been attacked by the spirit of a young girl. One suffered a severe concussion. The other one nearly drowned. The couple swears that the ghost was to blame. Others say that they had been drinking too much or they had an accident that they don't want to admit to. Accident, huh? It was her.
You know you love me.
Of course I do. If we only found each other sooner, we wouldn't have to sneak around like this.
You think Tom has any idea?
I was just getting in the mood. Look, I don't mention Kathy, so could we not mention my husband, please?
Come on, I just want to know if we're being too obvious. I've never had an affair with such a beautiful woman.
I'm gonna go take a bath.
Al, just kidding. Come on, Al. We hardly have time together as it is.
Wine!
What?
If you go get some wine, fine. I'll save some room for you in the tub.
All right.
Jeff? Babe, is that you? This is no way to romance me.
Al? Hope you saved some room for me.
Some people say you can't take pictures of ghosts or spirits. They say the pictures you take can't see beyond our own dimension. They're wrong. Some people say that couple commit suicide, but I know it was her. The police photos of the scene were never released. I got a hold of one of the pictures. The fact of the matter is, this girl is not as innocent as some people thought.
The name means Hill of the Ghouls. The historians tell me that it's the last name of the family and that this was their burying ground. But I always ask myself, where did they get that name? There's no other explanation for the pileup of not only physical disasters, natural effects, deaths, murders, highway accidents, but also there's a lot of supernatural folklore out here.
Gutelberg Cemetery it's a very, very old cemetery. Back in times when there was no running water, you placed yourself close to a water source. Because of the location of the creek being so close, this is an ideal spot. Prior to the onset of the European time, this would have been a ceremonial place and could very well have been, because of its location of being raised up with two spots on either side being lower, that this would be the place where they would leave their relatives, or this would be the actual burial sites.
It has quite a long history to it. It has some of the oldest graves in Western New York there, for one thing. There's been enough stories from so many different people that all match up that you could take that as almost proof. There's been people that have been hurt on their way there, on their way home, actually in the cemetery. This spring, one of our members from our organization was on a investigation with another organization, and he was hit by a car while they were walking along the road on the way there. He and a group of friends used to pay monthly visits to Gutenberg. They went there the one time, and they stayed for quite a few hours. When they went out to the car and got in the car on the way home, when they turned the lights on, they could see all the fog and dew all over the windows of the car, and the car was covered with children's handprints all over the whole car.
There was a cholera epidemic here in the early 1800s that killed a lot of young people. And many of the graves here, when you could still read them, they were of very young people.
The abortion doctor story is probably the most famous story about Gutenberg. He owned a house across the street. The babies or fetuses would be tossed into the water or buried. And the mothers that didn't make it, it was the same deal, either toss them in the water or bury them. And supposedly, after many years of this and being haunted by the fetuses and the mother's ghosts, he committed suicide by hanging himself from a tree on top of a hill.
There are rumors that somebody is conducting ceremonies up here, sometimes very late at night. There are mysterious fires and circles in the earth found. They're not crop circles, they're burned. Nobody knows what it is. Just over there is the grave of a young girl who died at 11 months old in 1895. On May Eve, just a few years ago, someone came here at night and tried to dig her up.
I think the grounds are desecrated. I think because of the vandalism of the stones, the unmarked stones where people were buried, such as babies with no stone and all that, I think it comes down to the ghosts are haunting it because they're angry.
And there's nothing psychic about the country abortionist, the many accidents, the apparently satanic vandalism at this graveyard. There may be nothing unnatural about any of this, but why does it all happen in the same place? And now, the second exclusive preview of the Phantom Tour, 13 Tales of Terror. The Grounds, based on events at a legendary cemetery.
I'll do what I can. Can't make any promises. When people go missing, sometimes they don't want to be found.
He had no reason to be at that cemetery. I don't understand it. But that's where he was.
Maybe he was running from something he kept from you.
He had nothing to hide.
By any chance, have you seen this man around the grounds?
I wouldn't know. I never stepped foot there.
Why is that?
Strange things happen around here, just from being near the place. I really don't want to talk about it. Good day.
She's a beaut.
Excuse me?
The grounds don't care what people say. It has a quiet beauty to me. They shy away for no reason.
What's the shovel for?
Digging graves. I'm the groundskeeper.
I didn't know that Gudelberg was an active cemetery.
We haven't had a funeral for some time. At least not a formal one.
Come again?
Like I said, I'm burying bodies all the time. Graves are unearthed, bones scattered. Every once in a while, headstones smashed. There's never peace here for too long.
So you're here on a regular basis?
Yes, sir. I put in my time. Don't mind it either.
Right. So have you seen this man?
Can't say I have. Of course, you're the first I talked with in some time. Usually the visitors here come out at night. The ghost hunters, thrill seekers. One time they thought we had a cult practicing all around here.
So you believe there are active cults in this area?
Some say that. They need excuses for why things are for what they are.
What do you mean by that?
People want explanations for everything. Why there are unearthed graves. Why there are human remains scattered. The burn marks in the grass. The accidents that happen all around here.
So there are unsolved accidents in this area?
All the time. But not satanic cults. Shoot. It's just my kids.
Your kids caused them? How many are there?
Too many to count.
Can I speak with them?
Might be hard. They're all dead.
I don't think I'm getting it.
I think of all these kids as my children.
What kids?
This whole graveyard. Mostly kids. Some unborn. Many died from cholera outbreak way back. Packed by dozen in some graves. Some with no names. But I look out for them.
So they caused the mischief around here?
They're kids. They're just playing. Don't know any better. Can't get mad at them.
No, not at all. They don't know any better.
Don't mock them. You wouldn't be the first.
Well, guess there's nothing left for me to do. So I'll just... Hey! Old man!
Hey. No, I didn't find anything out. Now, there's something really bizarre about this groundskeeper down here. About this whole place. I should probably check both things out, but I should be back. Damn. No service.
Hope you enjoyed our tour of the most haunted places of Western New York. Sweet dreams.
Hi, I'm Lara Spencer. Join me on our search for America's hidden treasures.
Were you worried that this wasn't period?
With my luck, it would have been a fraud.
There are really only a few known copies of this in existence.
No! That's next time from Portland, Oregon on Antiques Roadshow.
Monday night at 8 on WNED.
From American experience.
Man on the way to the moon, for heaven's sakes.
To get to the moon, it would take more than a giant leap.
There was probably 1/3 chance of not coming back. I thought those were pretty good odds.
Relive man's first journey away from Earth.
Apollo 8 has had more of an impact than even the first landing on the moon.
Race to the Moon on American Experience.
Monday night at 9 on WNED.
The Buffalo News and WNED have joined forces to sponsor Western New York's participation in the National Jefferson Awards for Public Service. A program of the American Institute for Public Service, the Jefferson Awards seek to identify and recognize ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Nomination forms are currently available on the web at buffalo.com/Jefferson Awards, at WNED Studios, or by calling the Buffalo News at 716-849-5496.
There she sees a damsel bright, dressed in a silken robe of white, that shadowy in the moonlight shone, the neck that made the white robe one. Why stares she with unsettled eye? Can she the bodiless dead espy?
It bores me. All this bodily dead and shrunken, shuddering superstition.
Really?
Could any of us write a more thrilling ghost story? Well.
Out of Ireland is brought to you in part by Boys Hope, Girls Hope, which helps children at risk to realise their potential by providing value-centred family-like homes and quality education. I'm Patricia O'Reilly, and I'm glad you could join us for another edition of Out of Ireland. Coming up on this week's programme.
In my memory, I will always see.
We visit the historic city of Derry and talk with its leading citizen, Nobel Peace Prize winner John Hume. But first, for the week's news from Ireland, over to RTE, Ireland's national broadcasting service.
Good evening and welcome. Rory Carroll, the Irish journalist abducted in Baghdad, has been released. His father, Joe, told RTE News the family is over the moon at his release. He said Rory had told him he had been held in a cell. 2 men came to the cell and told him he was free to go. He had been abducted after he left